What's up guys? Welcome back to Imperial Cubic. Today's video is going to be one that I think you've waited for quite a long time. It's going to be the tutorial on how to solve the 3x3. So there are basically, I guess, three layers. The first layer, which I like to call the top, the middle, second layer, the middle, and the bottom layer. When you start solving the first layer, I suggest starting on white since it's easy color to remember. And then your middle layer is going to be, well, all the colors that aren't white or yellow, and the last layer is going to be finally yellow. So, in this video, I'll try to cover all of the basic steps. So, without any further ado, let's get into the tutorial. So, first, before we do any movements or any algorithms, we need to know how to move the cube. So pick any color you want. If your cube is scrambled, that's okay. It doesn't really matter right now. We're just going to practice a few moves. So the first thing we're going to practice is the movements in algorithms. Like when I say RU2, R prime, U prime, you're not even going to understand why I'm saying alphabets and primes. So I'll teach you. When you do R, you move the right side. So when you hold the cube like this, with your thumbs on the edge pieces, you move the right side up. Once again, up. When I say U, you move the top side to the left, U. So this is R, and this is U. When I say R prime, I want you to move the right side down. R prime is the opposite of R. So this is R, this is U, and this is R prime. When I say U prime, I want you to move the top to the right. So this is R, this is U, this is R prime, and this is U prime. So R, U, R prime, U prime is a very basic algorithm. So if you do R, U, R prime, U prime 6 times, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the cube will be solved. Or it'll come back to its original state. So, same way. When you do L, I want you to move it down. When I say L prime, I want you to move it up. So, L, L prime. So D is the opposite of U. The same way L is the opposite of R. So D, I want you to move it this way. D prime, I want you to move it this way. So, let's go over it again. R, U, R prime, U prime, then we have L, L prime, D, and D prime. Okay, I think that just about covers it. So now that you know all of the movements, let's get into the first step of solving. So the first step of solving is the white cross. But before we get into the white cross, let's give this cube a good scramble. Okay, I think this is good enough. And remember, scramble is doing random moves and not remembering them. So we can see here that this cube is completely and utterly not being scrambled. So now, once we have it scrambled, we are going to pick a color to start on. Like I said, start on white. It's very easy to remember. Next thing you want to do is make the daisy. So the daisy is we find the opposite of the color we started on. I say start with white. So we pick white and we look at the opposite. We do it once, twice, and we see the opposite is yellow. So when we do the daisy, we want to look at all of the white edge pieces. Remember, this is an edge piece, not this. It's the one that's directly in touch with the center, not diagonally. Horizontally or vertically, not diagonally. So we found this white edge piece over here. So there's no specific algorithm to this. You just have to try your best. Don't worry about messing up the cube, but you want to make all of the edges turn into a daisy. don't worry about these pieces right now. They don't have to all be the same or anything. But once you ignore the corner pieces, you can see that this sort of looks like a daisy. See, edge, 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 edge. So once you have this, and it'll take quite some time. If you're starting? Now you need to look at the edges. So we have a white and orange. Then if you turn the top, or if you do U prime, we have white and red. U prime, white and green, and then we have U prime, white and blue. So our goal, once we have our daisy, is to match up all of the edges. So we can see if I do U prime once, let's check. None of the edges are matched up. Let's see if I do it again. Let's look around. Yep, we have one. We have red, and it's matched up with the red center. So once we have red, I want you to do F2. When I say 2, that means I move it twice in its so when I say R2, I want you to move the right once up, twice up. It's like doing that same move twice. So when I say F2, I want you to move the front once, twice. And you can see that now a cross is starting to form, and we have a red. So now back to our daisy. It lost a petal. Now we have to do U prime again. Let's see what we got. Yep, we have orange. So we do F2, and we can see that we have now a horizontal bar. Now we have to do another side, and we see that white and blue are matching. So we do once, twice. And now the green. Once, twice. And then this is the cross, if you ignore the corner pieces. So the next step of this is the white face. Once you have your cross, we're going to move on to the corners. Keeping in the corners is very easy. So let's see, how many corners do we have in here? We already have one in here, but let me take it out. Okay, so we have 0 corners. Some of them are not oriented right. So let's say we have this corner over here, and it's in the right position, but it's not in the proper turning. So what we have to do is we have to do R prime, D prime, R. Once again, that's R prime, D prime, R. And then, once we have the corner here, we have to look at its 2 centers. This has blue and this has orange. So we have to look at the blue and orange centers and keep it in the merging point. And then we have to move this away. Since this is on the left side of the cube, we have to move it to the right. So away, bring this down, and then back up. Okay, if you want to know that algorithm, you have to do, if it's on the left side, you do D, L, D prime, L prime. And then we have another corner here. This is a blue and red, and it's not oriented right, or in the right spot. So we have to do, once again, that algorithm I said, R prime, D prime, R, and then we have to look for the blue and red centers. So we found them here. Once again, this is on the left, so we do D, L, D prime, L prime. So you can see we are starting to form a white face. Same way, this corner is over here. But let's say that we have this corner and it was down below, like this. So if the corner is like that, we have to move this side, and you have to do this algorithm. If it's on the right side, you can position it in the right or the left side. I suggest keeping it in the right side of the cube. And then you do R prime, then you do D, 2, and then you do R. And we can see that we have that corner out. So then we move that corner to its corresponding centers. We have green and red, and we just keep the cube in, corner in. Since it's on the left side, we have to do, since it's on the left side, we do D, L, D prime, L prime. Now the last corner. It came on the right side. So we have to do D prime, R prime, D, R. And you can see we have now completed the white face. The next step after this is to move on to the second layer. So, the second layer. Second layer is where you keep in the edges. So, first we want to flip the cube over to the yellow center. And we want to do U. We have to find any edges that don't have any yellow. So we did U prime. This edge doesn't have any yellow. This one doesn't have any yellow. This one does have yellow, and this one doesn't. So the ones that have yellow we cannot use because those don't go anywhere. And I'll explain why that in a second. So you can see that our centers are not the color yellow. And their edges, even though they're matching, don't belong with yellow. So if we want to fit the correct piece over here, we're going to have to find any edges that don't have any yellow. So you're going to pick a center that you like. So I'm just going to pick orange, and I'm going to do D. And I can automatically see that there is an edge that matches up with our center. And we can see that it has orange and blue. So I have to find the blue center. Where did they go? Oh, it's over here. So once I do that, I want to show you this algorithm it's a handy dandy algorithm that keeps this edge piece in here. You have to do D, L, D prime, L prime, and we can see that this corner and this edge are matched up now. And then we have to do, you have to keep the corner in. So since the corner is on the right side, we have to do D prime, R prime, D, R. And we can see that we have that edge in. But now, let's say that our center blue was on the left side, so we did D. But now our center is on the right side, so what do we have to do? We have to do D prime. So we do D prime, R prime, D, R. And then we slot the corner in. D, L, D prime, L prime. And we can see that we now have one more edge left. Some of you might have to do multiple edges. Now, let's say we have a situation where there is an edge that's not properly placed. So we have to find any color edge. It has to be yellow, has to have yellow on it. And we do that algorithm. You can start on either center where the stuck edge is, and we just do. If we're starting on the blue center, and we can see that this edge is stuck, and it's supposed to be over here, then we just do, we move it to the right, because our center is on the left. But if we start over here, our center is on the right, so we have to do D prime. So you can pick any way you choose, but you have to remember, if your center is on the right, you do D prime. If it's on the left, you do D. Okay. So I'm just going to do it on the right, and D prime, R prime, D, R, and keep the corner in. And we can see that we have now taken out the edge. So we just keep the edge back in. Remember, if the center is on the right, you do, if the center is on the right, you do D prime. If the center is on the left, you do D. And so I have the edge in. So now we've completed the second layer. Let's go on to the third. Okay, so the third is the cross. So you can have 3 steps to the cross, the yellow cross. You can have this horizontal bar, like I do. Don't worry about the corners right now. You can have the cross. Don't worry about the corners. And you can see we have this plus, or you can have this this 2 edges that are like this. You can also have no edges and just a centerpiece. If you have any of those steps, hang in there. If you have just the yellow centerpiece and there are no edges that are yellow near it, do this algorithm. F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And you will automatically see this these two edges that are like corresponding to each other. So we want to keep them in the 9 o'clock position. This is what I call 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. So this is in the 9 o'clock position. And then we do that F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Once you have that 9 o'clock position, you will get the horizontal bar. If you have the horizontal bar, do F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And then you'll see you have the cross. So you might have no yellow centerpieces. You might have the 9 o'clock position, you might have the horizontal bar, or you might have the cross. One thing is very important. Make sure to keep the edges in the 9 o'clock position and to also keep the bar horizontal. The next step after you solve the cross is solving the edges. So you want to pick a center to start on, and it doesn't matter. And so you have to look around the cube. And you have to see if there are two edges that match up with the centers. We can see right now that there are none. So we just do U prime. And we can see that this edge matches up. So we have to look for one more. And then yeah, we have it. This these are two that are one in the front and there are one in the back. This is a very, very, very special case. If you have it, then you can watch this part. So, if you have two edges that are not next to each other, but that are one in the front and one in the back. So, you have to keep one like that. You have to keep one edge in the front, and you have to keep one edge in the back. You can't just do this, because you have to turn the cube until one is in the front and one is in the back. You can't do U or U prime. So, you have to keep one in the front, one in the back, and then you do this algorithm. R, U, 2, R prime, U prime. R, U prime, R prime. So once again, that was R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. And so then, once you do that, you will see that you have two edges that are next to each other. For those of you who don't have this horizontal edge parity, then you don't have to worry about it because you will have this. But those of you who do, remember this algorithm. And if those of you who don't, still remember the algorithm. So once you've done that, you're going to have two edges that are next to each other. So you have to keep one in the back and one on your left. Don't move it into any other position because this algorithm will not work. One in the left and one in the back. And then we do R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U prime. And then we can see that we have all of the edges matched up. Okay, so once you have all of the edges matched up, this is the second to last step in which to solve the cube. The second last step is corner orientation. So the first thing we want to do is we want to turn the cube in our hands, and we want to look for any corner that is in the correct place, even if it's not properly switched. If we don't, then we're going to pick our favorite color center, and we're going to start this algorithm. U, R, U, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. Once again, that was U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. Okay? And then we're going to look around the cube. And then we can see that we have one corner here. This corner is properly placed, and it's in its proper solved state. But you may also have a corner that looks like this. That it's not properly orientated, but it's in its proper spot. It's okay. So you just need to look for one corner like that. And then, once you have that, you have to keep that corner on the right. And you have to do U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime. And then we have to do, L. So, then once we look around the cube, we have to see, are all the corners solved? Yes, this corner is proper placed. And this corner is properly placed, and the other two are solved. So, once you have a case where all of the corners are in their proper position, but they are just not twisted or properly right. You have to do this algorithm. So this algorithm is you have to turn the cube from the yellow face facing up to the white face facing up. And then you have to start on your corner. You have to do R, U, R prime, U prime. And then you have to look down. No corner here. R, U, R prime, U prime. Let's look. We have a corner, but it's not twisted right. So R, U, R prime, U prime. No corner. R, U, R prime, U prime. And yep, we have that corner solved. So we move on to the next one. We do R, U, R prime, U prime. No corner. R, U, R prime, U prime. And yep, the corner is solved. Now we just have to turn the bottom. And congratulations, you have solved the 3x3 Rubik's Cube.
I hope this tutorial proved useful for you and you can solve your own Rubik's Cube now. Remember, always like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more notifications. Our motto is always to stay imperial and stay a cuber.